Hi everyone, this is Scott. I do the Thursday reviews here on the collab channel known as the Movie Reviewers 100. We had a theme this week of a particular actress that I'm finishing up now, sometimes we only have like maybe 3 or 4 videos in a given week if not all the guys are available to do it. But despite the fact that Reese Witherspoon is not a favorite actress amongst some of the other guys on this channel, and her movies aren't particularly well liked, everybody ended up doing a video, which is very pleasing to me. I actually suggested this particular person for the theme, as anyone who knows me well will have guessed by now. I am kind of in the same boat as the other guys, but I'm a big fan of hers, have been for a long time. And the difference is I look at what she's done and go, geez, Reese, you can do so much better. Please make better movies. Please give better performances. Because she's been very, very good, and she's made some very good films. I think Dino, was it Dino, I think, who predicted that I would review Election, and that would be one of my top choices, but I'm actually going to talk about her career in general. I've been keeping careful track of the movies that she's made and who directed them and who her co-stars were, so I thought I'd put that list to good use today. Her first film was The Man in the Moon. It came out in 1991. I was 18 when I saw it in the theater. Robert Mulligan's the director. He directed To Kill a Mockingbird, which is a classic Gregory Peck film. She is one of 2 teenage sisters growing up on a farm in the 1950s. They both have feelings for the boy next door, but he's more interested in Reese's older sister. It's a quite good film. You know, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. But I didn't really become a fan of hers until 1993, which is when the Tony Scott, Quentin Tarantino film True Romance came out. Patricia Arquette was the leading lady in that, and after seeing that movie I sort of went on a Patricia Arquette binge. I rented every movie that I could get my hands on that she was in, one of which was a TV movie called Wildflower, and her co-stars in that were William McNamara, Beau Bridges, and Reese, who played William McNamara's younger sister. And she gave a great performance in this movie. She was very spirited and energetic. She gave her brother a lot of guff over having feelings for Patricia Arquette. Really good, nice performance. I thought, well, you know, she's a lot of fun. I've been looking forward to other stuff that she does. And she was in a few TV movies and a few theatrical movies here and there, one of which was a big Disney picture with Ethan Embry, who went on to be one of her co-stars in Sweet Home Alabama. But she only did like maybe 1 film a year because her parents wanted her to be in regular school, not to be tutored on sets and just spend all her time making films. They want her to have a normal childhood and go to a regular high school. So she just made movies during the summer, so her output was kind of slow at that point. But once she finished a semester at Stanford, then she started getting in gear and really making them much more rapidly. After doing movies like Fear and Freeway, oh, by the way, she was offered the lead role in Scream after she did Fear, and she turned it down because she didn't want to do another slasher thriller. If she had done Scream, she would have become a movie star much, much faster than she did. You know, she would have become famous much more quickly. So, you know, it's possibly a good thing that she missed out on doing that. The role went to Neve Campbell instead, who doesn't have nearly as big a career as Reese does right now. And Freeway was one of her more notable performances. It's a really scrappy, low-budget indie movie. If I'm not mistaken, E.J. Puck Bond reviewed that earlier. And I really like her performance a lot in this movie, especially the scene where she makes fun of Kiefer Sutherland in the courtroom. He's a child psychologist, but he's also a serial killer, and he threatens her and tries to attack her, but she gets the upper hand and really messes him up. So when she's put on trial for his attempted murder, he gets wheeled in the courtroom with a wheelchair and his face is all messed up, and she just starts ripping him a new one. She starts making fun of him. One of the funniest things she's ever done. When she did Twilight with Paul Newman, then she kind of went on a roll. She started making movies one after the other without taking breaks. Twilight had a pretty prestigious cast in it, but she's only in it for a small amount of time. She has a couple of good scenes, though, with Gene Hackman. Paul Newman, though. Pleasantville was a movie she did with Gary Ross, the director of The Hunger Games. Tobey Maguire and Jeff Daniels and Joan Allen were in it. Election, of course, is one of her most acclaimed movies. Dino predicted that I would review this movie. Sorry to disappoint you, Dino. I'm not going to do a specific review, but it is one of her best films. Alexander Payne, the director of Sideways and The Descendants and some other good pictures, did this film. Chris Klein and Matthew Broderick were in it, and she created a character that has become sort of infamous now, Tracy Flick, the really annoying high school go-getter and ladder climber, I guess you could say. So one thing I'd say about Reese, I really like her acting for the most part, but occasionally she'll take a role in which she has to be really shrill. And I think it's better when she underplays parts. Election is, good performance, but again, kind of an annoying character. She did Cruel Intentions, which was reviewed by Ray. I don't like this movie very much at all. I think it's extremely silly. I can't take it seriously. She's good in it, as well as Joshua Jackson and Christine Baranski. But the guy who became her husband, Ryan Phillippe, is in it. Sarah Michelle Gellar. They're pretty terrible. She was in American Psycho with Christian Bale. She had a small role in that. She guest starred on Friends as Jennifer Aniston's younger sister. She had a cameo in Little Nicky, which is an Adam Sandler movie. But it wasn't until 10 years after her first movie, in 2001, that she did Legally Blonde. Sorry, she did Legally Blonde in 2001, 10 years after her first movie. That made her a big movie star. Though I enjoyed that movie somewhat, I don't think it's one of her better movies. But I'm glad it exists because now she's got a big career. She went on to do Sweet Home Alabama, big hit. She did a second Legally Blonde movie, which I didn't even bother going to see in the theater. She did Vanity Fair, which is an adaptation of a classic novel. I watched this movie, but I don't remember half of it. It's really, it was really tough going for me. Walk the Line, of course. Al talked about Walk the Line in his video. Now, this isn't one of my favorite movies of hers. Being it's a biographical picture, it doesn't have a real strong shape to it. It's more like events in a person's life or people's life, and then here's where we'll stop the movie, rather than it being a movie with a beginning, middle, and end. But it sort of charts the relationship that Black something. The heck is his name? How can I? They call him the Man in Black. I can't. Johnny Cash. Excuse me. Why did I think that his last name was Black? Joaquin Phoenix, of course. Was nominated for an Oscar for playing Johnny Cash. Reese played June Cash, and of course she got the Oscar for Best Actress, which I was very happy about. But then she gave one of the longest and most boring acceptance speeches ever, so I wasn't happy about that. But I will say that whether or not she had the best performance of the whole year that year, I think it's certainly one of the best performances of her career. It's one of her most natural, most subtle performances, and she sings in it, which is great. I love to see actors do something like dancing or fighting or singing or doing something different than just speaking if I've known them for a long time, if I've been watching the movies a long time. So very happy about that. Oh, by the way, before I forget, Love Stalker's coming back to Chicago. It's going to be at the Portage Theater the second week of September. So I'll give more details later, but I just wanted to mention that that's going to be coming again. I'm very excited. I'm going to be going to some screenings. I actually re-rented Just Like Heaven. Dino mentioned this one. It's the one where she plays a ghost and Mark Ruffalo has to deal with her. I re-watched this last night and I liked it more when I first saw it, less so now. But it's one of her better comedies, I think. But maybe not as good as Sweet Home Alabama. I didn't like Sweet Home Alabama that much when I first saw it. But now I think it's a bit better, and there's a huge, really good cast in that movie. She was in Rendition with Meryl Streep. Jake Gyllenhaal was also in the movie, but they didn't have any scenes together. They just sort of met while they were doing costume fittings, and they had a relationship for a few years. Four Christmases, I didn't bother going to see in the theaters. It looked pretty bad, and I eventually saw it, but nothing special there. Monsters vs. Aliens. Now here's another one she did with Paul Rudd. She did a direct-to-video comedy with Paul Rudd called Overnight Delivery. And then they both did voices in Monsters vs. Aliens, and then they did How Do You Know, which is a James L. Brooks drama. And I was really excited to see this because Jack Nicholson was going to be in this movie as well. I thought, ooh, Reese has scenes with Jack Nicholson, right? No, she has one scene with Jack Nicholson, and he basically just ignores her. They probably had a nice conversation on the set, but clearly I wanted more Reese-Jack interaction in the film itself, so I was disappointed by that. Water for Elephants came out last year. I think that's one of the best movies she's been in. Robert Pattinson is in it. Christoph Waltz, he's really good in the movie. And it's directed by Francis Lawrence, who is directing the next Hunger Games movie. So I'm really excited about that because he also did I Am Legend and Constantine. He's a very, very visually stylish guy. Yeah, fine film. Really like the ending of that film. It's just good overall. And she does acrobatics in that movie, which is awesome. This Means War came out earlier this year. Man, that movie's terrible. I would just skip that one. But her next couple movies look pretty promising. One is directed by Jeff Nichols, who did Take Shelter with Michael Shannon and Jessica Chastain. It's called Mud, and her co-star is Matthew McConaughey. Now, Matthew McConaughey has also had his less respectable period of doing comedies with people like Sarah Jessica Parker and Kate Hudson. But he's been on a roll lately. He was in Bernie, he was in Killer Joe and Magic Mike. He was great in all of them, so this is a good thing. I think this is going to turn out to be one of her better movies. And The Devil's Knot, which is based on a true story about some kids who got charged and convicted with murder and spent at least 10 years in prison just because they listen to heavy metal music. There's been a couple documentaries made on these people, but this is a regular narrative film. Adam McGoyan is the director. He's done a lot of really interesting Canadian films. Colin Firth and Stephen Moyer and Bruce Greenwood are some of the people in this movie, so that one looks very promising. So, always looking forward to anything that she does, just really like pulling for her. I had sort of an unhealthy fixation with her at some point, but that's pretty much past. I look at her as more of like an old friend or cousin maybe, someone who I'm pulling for saying, you know, I can know you do really good, so please do so. So there's my Reese video. Thanks very much for watching, and we were going to do Tony Scott 3 weeks from now. Tony Scott died recently. We've decided to move that theme up. It's going to start tomorrow, so we'll hope you'll tune in for that. Thanks very much for watching. Take it easy.